Thank you so much, Victor. Although, as you have rightly put it, we are coming to you live from Sauti House here in County 001, County of Mombasa. It is true that parents are taking their children back to school right now. There are so many aspects to cover. There's so much ground to cover, and the financial constraints is also a reality on the ground. The impact of parenting is what we are doing today. Our topic of discussion is the impact of poor parenting. But before we go to the negativity, let's reverse back and talk about ideally what is parenting. What does the society deem as fit, and what does the society deem as good parenting? How does someone say that your son has turned out great, or how do you constitute that your son or your daughter has turned out as a failure in life? These are some of the array of discussions we're going to have with my guest who's here today. Karibu sana. Her name is Dr. Rebbeca Kaguru. She is a senior lecturer at the Kenya School of Government, as well as the head of business linkages and collaboration at the Kenya School of Government. She is my guest today. She's a mother of 4 and a grandmom to 2 grandchildren. So that to my opinion, that is enough experience we need on this show today to just give us perspective as to what parenting is. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yesterday, as I was having this discussion with my family members and telling them tomorrow we're going to talk about parenting,
yes,
they told me, just tell people that there is no syllabus to parenting. You just have to apply whatever God has given you, and whatever leadership that God has given you, that is what you apply. As to you, what's your perspective? What is parenting according to you?
Thank you very much. Parenting, according to me, is actually a very important responsibility that we have been given by God Almighty, so that we can provide leadership and maximize on the potential of our children, so that they can be what they were expected to be. So that is how I look at parenting. As parents, as leaders, molding the children to be what they are supposed to be. That is my perspective on parenting.
And
yes.
So recently, I personally took my child to school.
Yes.
And during the first week, I think I did make a lot of failures, but the teachers were there to help me through it. How does someone know that I'm supposed to put 1 + 1 so that I can raise a human being that the society says is good? How do you say that this child has turned out well? What are some of the pointers that you'd say that this is what has made the society look upon my daughter or my son with pride?
Thank you very much. I think I'll go a little bit back, because before we talk about the parent is supposed to have been prepared to be a parent. So if you have prepared yourself, and preparation means that you have a vision for your children. And it's not a vision that is based on what the society thinks, it's a vision based on what the manufacturer thinks about your children. And when I talk about a manufacturer, I mean that higher authority that actually created these children. So after you have prepared for parenting, then you'll be able to have a roadmap that is going to help you guide your children to be disciplined, to be committed, to be able to follow instructions and reduce disobedience. And that way, they turn out to be grown-ups that are responsible and that can be able to participate in the society. And that way, we reduce the very many disinfunctions that we have in the society currently. So I feel parents require leadership, they require training, so that as they take over the responsibility of taking care of their children, they are doing it with understanding and with information. So it's not a trial and error where you think that the way a parent in this family brought up their children is the way I'm going to bring up the children. So it has to be a preparation and a focus based on each individual parent. Yes.
Talking about the dysfunctions, you and I come from different generations,
yes,
so as to speak. And also there is another generation after me.
Yes.
And that is where many families are breaking up right now. I am trying to raise my child based on what my generation thinks is good.
Yes.
But then they already have they are covered, or they are hugged with so much right now that is affecting their upbringing. I'm talking about technology. I'm talking about peer pressure. What we used to find as fun then is not what they find fun right now. We used to be an outdoor people. Right now, people just want Cocomelon and TikTok. So we come from different generations. For you as our parents, we used to tell us in the morning their chores to do. Right now, we have machines. I have a washing machine. I have a dishwasher for my children, that they are not contributing to him being responsible. So we have a very wide generational gap, and we're talking about 4 generation intercrossing to ensure that this child comes out as the best. How do we start from there?
Thank you very much. I believe the generations have changed, it is true, but the human being has still remained a constant. So each child is supposed to be socialized based on their current environment. It is true we have technology. It is true we have these machines, but as a parent, therefore, you now need to reorganize the activities and the duties that the child is supposed to do, because even if it's putting them in the machine, it's still a responsibility. Can they be able to operate this machine? Can they be able to be left and they are responsible so that all these machines, you find them working? So it is true the generations have changed, and it is true our children might not be expected to behave the way we were behaving. And that's why I encourage parents, it is true they have that syllabus. They are past syllabus. But then let them realize that these children now are growing in a different environment. And I would encourage parents also to socialize themselves in technology so that they understand what is required of this technology. Most parents don't know TikTok. When the children talk about TikTok, they don't know. When they talk about Cocomelon, they don't know. When they talk about Instagram, they don't know. So the parents of now have actually a greater role to be able to integrate with what is happening currently. And you prepare yourself. Learn to understand what are the dynamics of this child in this current environment where there's so much which is fighting them. And you see, psychologically, when you are seeing too much, you might not be able to think well. So that's the reason why, as parents, we have to limit the amount of time these children are spending on some of the programs. And we also get to understand what is Cocomelon. What does Cocomelon add to the child in terms of their thinking? Because at the end of the day, they spend so much time seated, and it impacts on their future in terms of what will they now turn out to be. Because if they spend all their time on the Cocomelon, now at the end of the day, what have they learned from the Cocomelon? So we have to have a compartment of timing. When do they watch? What are they actually supposed to be engaging in? Yeah, and that is where I'm finding a challenge as parents, especially working parents, who are very busy and they have not even socialized the manager at home so that she's able to know how to guide the children when they are left with them at home. So I feel the syllabus might be different, but the environment is what we really need to look at, the environment that we are in now.
Let's look at the roles of the man and the woman in the family. I understand they're single mothers. I understand they're single fathers. Circumstances might have led them to raise this child alone. And you might find that some of the children turn out okay. Some of them turn out with insecurities amongst them. But look in both scenarios.
Yes.
What is the role of both of them? And in the absence of one, how do you ensure that still this child is grounded?
Yes. Wow, these are some of the dynamics and the dysfunctions that we are talking about, or situations that our children are finding themselves in. So from a psychological point of view, the child is actually supposed to feel the presence of both the man and the woman. So the mother and the father. But situations where single mothers, like we are saying, single mothers are there, and there are very many of them. We might also have single fathers who are bringing up their children. So a single mother is supposed to have a father figure maybe an uncle or maybe a father who is there, because the role of the different gender in the life of a child brings the balance, so that they are able to look at life from the two perspectives. So it's very important that these children are anchored to somebody who is responsible, so that even as they are growing up, they are not skewed in their growing up. They are able to look at life from the two perspectives. So if I look at the roles of the different members of the family, each one of us, of course, understands in a family there is a structure. So depending on that structure, each individual has a role to play. So there is a role of the mother in the family, and there is the role of the father in the family. So in terms of the leadership and in terms of structure, in an ideal home setup where there is a father figure, then the father is supposed to provide the leadership, so that the vision and all the cultures and the characteristics of these children is based on a certain standard, based on the leader. Just like in an organization like this one, there is the CEO and there is the board. So they give the guidelines on what is supposed to happen. So even in the family setup, for commitment and seriousness, the leader is supposed to provide a vision, so that everybody now follows suit to that vision.
An important point that you are raising when it comes to the bringing up of children.
Yes.
Many parents fail to disassociate themselves from the children.
Yes.
So that you can understand that this is June. June has her own life, and you lived your own life.
Yes.
So I may necessarily, because we grew up, my father was known to say, you're going to be an engineer, in fact, the 13 of us, he lined us up, this is going to be a doctor, this will be a lawyer. But when I grow up, there are maybe attributes that I like, and there are others that I certainly couldn't be a nurse. Now I'm a journalist. But the associating and giving the child freedom to become who they are has become a very big dysfunction in the family. You might find that creates a rift between the parents and the children, because you do not meet the expectation of the parents. What do you tell? In fact, we have this trait in the fathers mostly, who insist you're supposed to be this, and they stand with their standpoint. What do you tell these parents?
Being a parent, actually, I've also experienced the same. My children tell me that there are things that I've told them that they are supposed to do that they feel are not what they are supposed to be. So it's very interesting how quickly, as a parent, you think for your child without realizing they have a potential and they have their life and they know what it's supposed to turn out to be. So it is true, as a parent, we give a standard, but then we should also have a flexible mind where we are able to interact with this child and get to understand them, so that then we don't waste their time. So as we are speaking now, one of my daughters feels that the degree that they did is our degree. So they still feel they need to ask themselves where they are supposed to be. And this is where I'm also asking the children to be more assertive to their parents and say, this is actually what I want. It is true.
Rebbeca, there are parents who are like pythons.
Yes.
And you cannot even dictate. In fact, most of the children tend to just do away with it, so that they just dispose you so that I can continue their lives. How do I become assertive to that?
So this is the reason why when we started, I started by saying that parenting is part of leadership. So if you're a good leader is a good listener. A good leader is a leader who allows the potential of that person they're leading to be maximized. And that way, they will actually say they have led. Because there will be a testimony of saying that when I was under the leadership of so-and-so, when I was in this family, they were able to help me develop in this way. So as parents, it's a challenge, and it's a learning process. And as you mature in parenting, actually you realize that you pressed these children so much when you were not supposed to have done so. So as you talked of this dynamic environment, because during our parents' time, there had so many pressures. Most of them didn't have shoes to wear. Whatever their children have now, to them was a prayer point. It's something that they had to pray about so that they can get through. So the fact that they lived in such a difficult environment should now help them change and realize their children now are in a totally different environment. So it is true, some parents can be pythons, but then as I said, that is not leadership. Because your children need to actually have somebody who can listen to them and who can allow them to be themselves, not to be something else. Yeah, so I feel it's a challenge, but parents are supposed to actually direct their children as per what they want.
Okay.
Yes.
There is a common saying nowadays, mi nimechoka, wacha yeye afanye venye anataka. It's a point where most parents right now are really stressing about this. Let's look at the course as we widen it as national issues. They are criminal gangs.
Yes.
And whether you like it or not, a long time ago I used to think that's my neighbor's child or that's another village's problem until it became my problem, because my people were coming in to become like the ones that I'm thinking that they cannot become. So there are so many things that had made parents now give up on their children, give up how someone has become pregnant at the age of 14, another one has become a criminal gang. That's the other day I witnessed a 14, 16-year-old getting torched by a mob because he's just stolen a handbag. And these are behaviors that as a parent, when you're told at first, you have to deny, because you can't imagine, this is my son can't be a thief. So there are common problems that are reality right now.
Yes.
And we're seeing the police fight with the parents, telling them it's their responsibility. But then again, for parents to accept that my child, I've raised them up to be so good, how can they turn out to be thieves in the society? How can they be pregnant while I have put all the gates and all the CCTV cameras? So parents right now are reaching a point where they're saying that this is a point of no return. Let the world teach my son or my daughter what they want to. How do we reverse the gears so that we can ensure that it doesn't matter? Because I'm sure there's so many people who have gotten pregnant but have made a life out of themselves. The others who are thieves, but now they have been rehabilitated and reintegrated in the society. So for this parent who is watching and saying, hey, you don't know my child, I know him, we have done everything but we cannot do anything, even maombi haifanyi kazi,
Kabisa.
What do we do? What do we advise them?
Thank you very much. This is a reality on the ground. As we are looking at what we are talking about, what is happening on the ground. So the reality is that our children actually have a lot of challenges. And some of them as a result of even our parenting styles, because the personalities of our children will very much depend on how we have not really brought them up, but the environment under which they have lived in. And because most of us as parents are very busy, sometimes we are not even there to get to know the character really of your child. And when we come back from work, even when the nanny tells you this is how your child behaved, you are not led even to believe. Because according to you, you feel that is not the way they are supposed to behave. Exactly. But that is how they are actually behaving. So we really need to get out of this denial. Because at the end of the day, this child of yours will not live with you forever. They are going to live with the society. And the society has certain expectations. And if that child is not able to fit in that society, they'll end up being burnt up, like you're saying. So it is actually a responsibility for all of us. It is a responsibility for all of us, and that's why maybe we might propose that there should be a school of parenting, where parents are actually assisted or empowered to understand what parenting is all about. And that's why the government is coming up with them, even with the curriculum, the competency-based curriculum, so that the children then are assisted to be able to conceptualize themselves, other than just thinking about other people, so that they are able to understand who they are. Because most of individuals actually do not know who they are. So they end up living a mirage of somebody else, and at the end of the day, they keep on asking, was this all about it? So we push them so much into the education without even knowing what they want, just like you're saying. So they are so frustrated, and some of them are ending up not able then to bring themselves back in order. So what I would encourage parents is to all of us to be together, so that we look at these children as the future, not now. How will they be when I'm not there? And you see, as I kept on insisting about leadership, for you to be a successful leader, it means when you go, then these children are able to actually grow up to be what they're supposed to be.
Parents who feel you shouldn't detect to me what my child is supposed to, do. If you correct, in the older days, I understand, even I myself, we were raised as a society. Parenting was not just about my mom or dad. It was about my auntie, my uncle, my grandfather. They would beat me because they wouldn't think. Right now, you cannot dare just go and hit someone else's child without being told, excuse me, I'll file a P3 or something. So how do you enforce that in a society? That's why you'll find the touching has come because this child has been told until it cannot be told again. How does the society then come in now in the present time so that they can feel this is not just about the parents but also a collective effort?
Well, I believe looking at what is happening right now, it is true. What you are saying has been there before, but of late, I'm in a group of new moms. Yeah, and when I listen to their frustrations as far as parenting is concerned, it's actually come to their realization that you cannot use one formula. And you cannot only look at your children alone. So it is good actually to ask for help, especially in terms of emotion, because some of us parents have emotional baggage that we have not handled. And since we have not handled it, we pass it over to the children. And in the process now, it becomes a societal problem where all of us want to protect this child who does not require to be protected because already there is a problem. So we are in denial. So this is why I'm saying as parents, we really have to come out of ourselves and accept the reality and say, yes, there is a problem. It is my child. It is true. I provided everything, but where I've reached, I need help. And my child requires help.
So what kind of help can we get? Because we are trying to reintegrate families to accept that there are dysfunctions and we are not in denial anymore. But how can we pull everybody back? Tell people, even if I'm a lost cause, but you can still come in and steer me in the right direction. How do we bring back the cohesion? How do we bring back the love? How do we bring back everybody to know their place in the family structure? How do we bring all that back?
So the first thing is these expectations that we started by talking, where everybody is expecting that you are supposed to be an engineer, like the way you are saying, I'm supposed to be a doctor. You know, the expectations are the ones that we need to speak to now, so that even those children who may look like they are misfits, or they look like they have not succeeded. Maybe they didn't even finish Form 4, or they don't even have a Class 8 certificate. But right now we have systems in place, the TVET colleges, where the children can still be encouraged to go and be able to develop their area of expertise, so that then they don't feel like they are social misfits. We also have family counselors who can also counsel the emotional gaps that are there in these children, because some of them have faced very many traumatic experiences as they are growing up. So they have not been able to close the expectation, because if I'm expecting you to be an engineer and now you are a thief, that is already a very big gap between what I was expecting you to be and what you are. But the reality is this. So how do we now deal with you so that the future does not become a death sentence for you? So I feel there's room for the whole society, the church, the mosque, everybody to play their role to actually provide the leadership to this generation, because this is our resource. These young people, the children, are the resource that we have for the future of this country. So we really have to speak to them and be patient. That is another characteristic the parents need to have. The money issues are there, but then you have a resource, you have an investment. How do you ensure this investment then is able to multiply in the future. Because these same children, you'll expect them to have their own children. So the way we take them now will be very, very important for their posterity. And sustainability is very, very critical in the society right now. So in the midst of all the issues that are happening, as parents, we still have a very critical role to provide that guidance, regardless of how terrible you think your child is, because these are still your children. We are not going to throw them away, and we are not going to give them to the society, because the society also expects us to have done our part, and then they also do their part. So I feel the government has also provided many avenues currently right now, because we have leadership from even the grassroots, and we are emphasizing every child to go to school. That's why we are offering the bursaries and all the things that the government is doing, so that the society is actually put at one standard, so that we are providing like a base for all the children to be able to feel that they are being taken care of. Even those that are not even getting an opportunity to go to college right now, we have the Ajira program, an online training, which is free. If you have Wi-Fi, you can actually be able to log in and get training. So I feel the society requires more information of what opportunities are available right now for these young people, so that one, they are not frustrated and stay at home doing nothing. Two, they are encouraged that regardless of what has turned out, there is still hope for you. Yeah. Even if we are talking of prayer, the prayer can also work, but now we have to face the reality based on the personality of your child. Mm-hmm. Yes.
As we bring in more stakeholders into the whole structure, it's true that we have people like Wazee wa Mtaa, who are now watchdogs over the society, and then it goes up the ladder. However, when it comes to now the relationship between these enforcers and the parents, it's become a very strange relationship, particularly here in Mombasa. I've seen so many public barazas where the police are very adamant in putting up public barazas so that they can talk to the parents and tell them this is the realities, because there's been a lot of denial in parents when it comes to how their children have turned out to be, because probably it's the age issue and so many other issues. So there's been a strained relationship between let's say the police will have religious leaders, will have, and the parents themselves. How do we ensure that it works, the relationship works, so that the parent can trust that the police is saying? Because now we are having situations where here in Mombasa again, children are disappearing. This one has been told warnings, they have gone to the police, the parents have released them every time, but now it has reached a point where they cannot trust the police because their children are disappearing, and they know the police is the one who picked them up. So there have been a broken relationship before, but how do we come back and build that cohesion between the stakeholders who are trying to also help the parents?
So I feel what you're saying about Mombasa, and I don't think it's a problem only in Mombasa, because I've been to a county like Nyeri where most of the children also have issues, and a lot of issues affecting them, especially when they have dropped out of school and they feel they are not able to do anything. So some of them can end up resorting even to stealing and all these issues, and then it becomes a very big societal problem. And as you're putting it rightly, the law enforcers will have to come in place, because stealing is not something that is allowed, or these kind of dysfunctions that I mentioned. So I still appeal to the parents and also appeal to the law enforcers, because as I said, all of us want to maximize on the potential of this particular individual. So how do we then again still have trust? Because as I said, as long as the child is over 19 years of age or even less, and they are not abiding by what is expected of them, then that law, the police officer has a role to ensure that then there is what? Order within the what? Within the society. So my plea is that all of us remember that we still have this particular resource, who is the child. So how do we model them? so that at the end of the day, they are able to speak to themselves and they are able to look at themselves as a future, not as a parent, not looking at me as I'm my mother's kid. No, you grow up and you become an individual and succeed. And that way, I feel the society will be better off than it is right now.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for making time for us, Dr. Rebbeca Kaguru.
Thank you.
You have given insightful pointers to say to parents who may be struggling with their children or maybe wanting more tips so that they can ensure that the issue of poor parenting does not crop up in the family structure. Today morning we have been trying to reintegrate, promote cohesion among the family setup by trying to give out advice to parents on how they can model their children. It is true, parenting does not have a syllabus. You just have to put 1 plus 1 together to ensure that your child, and pray to God that your child comes out well. But that doesn't mean there is no room for advice. There are so many topics that we can divert to, but that's all the time that we had this morning. We'll be looking forward to continue this discussion in future. However, our time is up and we have to wrap it up. So from Mombasa County, it has been a pleasure joining us this morning. And as we wrap up, my name is Juney Karisa on behalf of my technicians here in Mombasa County. Do have a pleasant day, and thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1.